right. Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I believe this is our 10th National Training Fund webinar. I appreciate everybody's continued participation and feedback. I think we're doing some really good stuff here and helping networking and growing together. Today, we're going to have Lee Worley give an apprenticeship department update. We've got Julie Kissel, who is a PDC instructor at the annual training program. She's going to talk about some stuff. Lee will do an introduction on her. Jason Quarter will give us an update for what he's working on. Brian Tannehill, myself, and Michael Sampson, basically covering all the stuff that we've been working on over the last few months since the annual training program, and hopefully getting some feedback from you guys as we close the thing out. And we'll let you all get out of here in about an hour. I'll turn it over to Lee Worley.
Good morning, good afternoon. James, everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you sound good.
Everybody? Okay. Hey, I got a few announcements. And unfortunately, I've got to start off on a sad note. It just pains me to fill everybody in that we had the son of one of our coworkers here at headquarters was killed. Bart Collard, our learning strategist for the National Training Fund. His son was a corporal in the U.S. Marines, and he was tragically killed in a helicopter crash during a training mission in Australia last week. So please keep your thoughts and prayers with the Collard family and all the servicemen and women that serve our country during this difficult time. So the thoughts are with you, Bart. Okay. Moving forward, we talked about this last webinar. The 9th annual National Apprenticeship Week will be the week of November 13th. What is National Apprenticeship Week? It's a nationwide industry where leaders host events to showcase the successes and value of registered apprenticeship. If you want to learn more, just Google National Apprenticeship Week and you can register your program, and it'll tell you about how to do certain things and post them for other people to see, because we're trying to attract more people into the trades, and this is a fabulous week to do that. Second of all, shortly, hopefully in the next day or two, Monday at the latest, you'll get the complete information on the Hobart Certified Welding Inspector packet information. General information was sent earlier, but you'll get detailed info, and the reimbursement spreadsheet will be out. So there's 2 classes left, October and November, if you do want to attend the Hobart CWI training. So October and December, and then the 2024 calendar will be sent out, like I said, with the rest of the information I sent out. So James, those are the only announcements I have, unless you have anything else, we can keep rolling.
Nope, I think we're good. On the National Apprenticeship Week, if you're doing some stuff in the grant space with pre-apprenticeships or anything like that, that might be something good to highlight in there. And like I said, when we get done with this, I'll send out everybody the link to this webinar, as well as some links to the National Apprenticeship stuff. I'll include that in there. Thanks, Lee. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move forward to Julie Kissel. Lee, do you want to give an introduction on who she is and why she's here?
Yes, thank you. We're absolutely honored and privileged to have Dr. Julie Kissel join us today. Dr. J, as I refer to her as, teaches PDC 7 for us, working with learners with special needs. Julie is also the president of Washington Community College English and College Readiness Department. I started taking my PDC courses as an instructor in the late 90s and early 2000s. We've had great instructors over the past years, and Julie joined us in 2013, and it is absolutely one of my favorite times of the week. I'm so busy with meetings Sunday through Wednesday. I try to get Thursday and Friday to hop around in different classes to observe everybody, and Julie does a phenomenal job with her class. And Julie, I'm sure you've got plenty of people here in the audience who've taken your class, and if not, you don't want to miss it. And not only Dr. J, the rest of the PDC instructors are so great. Jay Tweet, Jeff Allen, Debbie Samuels, Madeline Mole, and John Musgrave. We got some of the top instructors leading our coordinators, instructors in the classroom in order to us to go back to our training centers and to teach. And I couldn't be more proud of what we got going. So Julie, you want to say a couple of words and maybe we get started?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I organized around what Lee had asked me to discuss, and you let me know how much time you want me to take. I know that you have plenty of things on your agenda, and I'm always willing to have conversations after this. Just let me know. So let me see if I can start my slideshow, and we can take a look at a couple things here. Let's see if I can make this work, because I have too many things on my screen, and now I can't get to my bottom of what I need to. There we go. Is it going to go?
And you can take all the time you need, Julie. We've got room for whatever you need.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I can talk for a while. I think most of you who I've seen quite a few names and faces that I recognize. So again, my contact information is listed here. And I have a few titles going on. So I've been a professional faculty in the English department for 20 years here at Washtenaw Community College, and I've been teaching for 27 total. My original degrees were in special education and English, and then eventually I went on to do a PhD in community college leadership. March 5th, 2020, I became the president of our faculty union, and 1 week later, we left campus for COVID. So I've been in that role since COVID started. And then, of course, as Lee said, I've been doing this since 2013, the PDC 7 course. And it certainly has shifted over time, but it's always exciting. So one of the things that we often talk about when we get into the classroom together is, what do some of our students look like? And so I wanted to give you a sample here of what things look like for me. So if I can advance my slide here, can I do it? There it goes. Okay. So if you're looking at the picture in front of you, this is a sample that I took from a student last week. So I teach the lowest level English courses, which we work on sentence level to paragraphing. These are students who are considered literate, and they come with a variety of problems. This is an adult. This is going to take me some time to work through with this particular student. He's one of 18 students in my class who may not have severe of an issue, but they are working from a similar level of, I don't even know how to even phrase that, a similar level of kind of below the levels that we would even consider even functional. And so with that, I bring all of those things to the classroom, or hope to, so that we can talk about what that experience is like working with students who present in ways that it's shocking when you see it. I mean, maybe no one else is shocked by this, but this is probably one of the worst samples I've seen in a while from a student. So I see some other chats in there. Thank you for posting some things in there, Mr. Owens. So let's go ahead and continue on. All right, let's talk about, and interrupt me at any time. You can put it in the chat or raise a hand. I still see people popping in into the space. So as Lee asked about what asked me to speak today, one of the things he wanted to know about is just the general impression of the Ironworkers Instruction Program from an outsider's point of view. And so as I thought about this over the last few weeks, it was this idea of professionalism versus professionalization, if I could even say it. And essentially, this is the idea of the improvement of skills and services versus just the pursuit of status. So what I've seen over my time working with you is that there have been gains in both of these, definitely. And what your training is doing, though, is that it is increasing this ability to professionalize. In that you are by increasing your training, you're increasing the status of your organization. And that's what's important right now. And without that, you're not going to continue to grow and move forward. And, the good news, and I can't forego an opportunity to talk about the standards of excellence because it's always part of the conversations. But this is essentially the core of what any classroom experience has to be built upon, is that what are you trying to do? You are essentially growing your unit, your organization with the training that you're doing. And depending on this basic kind of function in order to move you forward. And these are adults. And even though they don't always present as adults when they come into our classroom, we have to treat them like that. We're looking to see, can they be part of this organization or not? And we spend lots of time during our week together, during the annual training, talking about that not every student belongs. I mean, the student that I showed you the sample with, he may not belong at Washtenaw. We have to determine that. I may have to quietly kind of get him to go someplace else because there may not be anything that we can do for him in this particular setting. The same will hold true for all of you. So knowing where those boundaries are and then how to treat people respectfully to move them in the direction that they need to go, whether that's out or whether that's keeping them in. Let's see if there's anything in the chat here. I see. No worry about being late. Here we go. All right, let's go on. So my course specifically, for those of you who haven't been in it, or maybe you've just heard magical things about it, is the idea that, I mean, it's a 20-hour course. We focus on disabilities. We focus on what you would traditionally think about in terms of learning styles or brain research. But really where I've gone the last, I don't know, 5 years or so is this idea of universal design. And really what universal design is this framework that we can use to improve and optimize our teaching. So we're getting all of these students, or we need all of these students in the classroom, and they may not always be ready for what we're going to do. So how do we frame our education and the programs, the training, whatever you want to call it? How do we do that in a way that will capture most of those students most of the time? Because we don't have time to do everything for everyone. And so UDL is something that's really becoming more of a touchstone within education, and it's something to think about as you consider any of the classes and any of the trainings that you're going to do. And so with that, I went back over some of my reviews just to get a sense of what participants felt after this week, assuming, you know, I left out all of the maybe the weird things that happened during our week, but really so many of them go into this idea that after our week together, it's this idea of aspiring to be a great instructor, and that they didn't realize, you know, what kind of meaningful activities they could do in just that short amount of time. But ultimately, what all of them have to get to a point of understanding is that for continued growth, there has to be reflection. It has to be there for the instructor, and it has to be there for the students as well. And this is the cool thing about working with adult learners, even if there are some other things behind the scenes, is that adults want to be able to manage their own lives. They want to be able to make choices. So when you're able to build that into what you do, you're likely going to have a better outcome in the end, in many cases.
Hey, Julie.
Yes.
I got a question on that reflection is necessary piece. You talked about kind of aspiring to be a great instructor, you know, and after going through that meaningful week. So I know that personally, and probably most of us here, you know, maybe have some troubles with that. So what would be some of your thoughts as far as best practices to kind of, you know, implement or utilize that reflection time or space, you know, to ensure that, you know, we're taking what we gained from the class and really be able to kind of put it in our training program?
I think one of the concerns always is that most of you don't have a lot of time. And, you know, you spend this whole week here, you know, in Ann Arbor, or 2 weeks or however long, and you have all this information, and then, you know, you're only able to capture so much of it. And so trying to build in those moments throughout not just that week, but long term, you know, how do you do that? Do you do it through these sorts of seminars? And we'll see, you know, even at the end of the presentation, what do you want to do as an organization to continue to grow this idea of becoming more professional and growing your status, growing your power, your control, your management of the space. So it's actually forcing that creation of that time, and that's time is the linchpin. If we don't have time for these things, it's so much harder to do any of it. So if you can build it in naturally, almost a forced reflection, it then starts to move that process forward. But you know, and I have had this past, it was just this past July, I had one of my students, and I believe he's held to that. He actually decided over the course of the week that he couldn't put forward any more of himself to do the job that he wanted to do, and he had to take a step back, that he was going to have to leave the classroom because he didn't want to shortchange the students, and he didn't want to put himself in that situation where he was always stressed and always under pressure. And that takes an enormous amount of resilience to even say that out loud. And that was what the battle that he had all week until he got to that Friday, and he said, you know what, I've just sent it. I'm not teaching the next course. I'm stepping back. I'm hoping that he takes time and he's able to come back. But, you know, if we don't allow for those spaces, we're going to have the burnout. And so many of the instructors talk about that they feel like they're the only ones that can do some of this work, and they're taxed with that. And that becomes an issue for the organization. And it's not just your organization. This is, you know, I live in Ann Arbor. We thought we could always find, I had to hang up with someone. We thought we could always find English teachers. We are at the bottom of the barrel of English teachers. I mean, to the point where people come in and we have to dismiss them because they're that bad. Even, they may have a master's degree or something else, but they can't do the work at all. So it's hard right now. It's hard for every industry. And this is something that as an organization, as leadership, you can then help try to manage that the best way you can to create the space. I know maybe a long way to get to that answer, James. I don't know.
No, it was good. No, that was all relevant. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So the importance of my course in particular. So of course, we want to assume that our courses are all wonderful and magical. I think for my course, because it's its own kind of unit, is this idea that I want to make certain that students, the instructors, take away with them that it's so important to learn how to maximize the learning experiences so we don't waste time. I mean, I don't have time for it. All of us are busy. We just don't have time for wasteful sorts of activities. So how can we look at new techniques to balance things? How can we leverage technology when we can? What are the other resources that we need or that we can tap into? And then really on a personal level, especially when you're working with students who may be presenting with a variety of what we call baggage often, is that instructors need to know how to cope with the students and understand what they're bringing to class. And it may not have anything to do with them as an instructor. And oftentimes, especially as a new instructor, you take it really personally that this student is acting out because, or this adult, this grown person is doing this because they hate me or whatever that might be. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with you. And so how can you learn to kind of shift those perspectives and use some of the tools? And I always, if you've seen The Martian with Matt Damon, he uses the phrase all the time, he's working the problem. So he takes the emotionality out and he says, okay, what's the issue that I have to deal with? Is it that the student can't read or the student's cursing at people or, whatever the issues are? How can I separate that from who I am and actually work the problem and see if I can come up with tools? And who can I contact to help me with that? Because you can't do it alone. You just simply can't do it alone. And oftentimes instructors feel absolutely alone against their class in many cases, unfortunately. So I think, in the end, it's what is your end goal with all of this? And, again, what I have seen is really, I've been impressed by the professionalism and this professionalization that's gone on. And they work hand in hand. And so realize that you're doing just fantastic things. And I've seen this in the 10 years that I've been working on annual training. So what do you want to do from this point forward? And so my thoughts were, not only having the yearly training, but what are the continuous training opportunities? So this specialized webinar, obviously comes to mind, but can you create other things that are based around the annual training? Maybe there are instructor modules, things that will be kind of a space where you can coordinate what you want the ironworkers to be as an organization, so that everyone's kind of shooting from the same space. New instructor modules, new coordinator modules. We have the ability to leverage, our Zoom and other LMS systems now. And what other partnerships do you need to make all of this happen? And I think those are the pieces that are before you so that you can do what you need to do and not waste the time in creating the ironworkers of tomorrow, really. A little bit philosophical there.
I like it. I like it. One thing kind of posting on that, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into chat or everybody's mics are open, but how have you seen, this is something I was writing kind of as you were talking, how have you seen the perspective change over time in regard to kind of ironworkers in general or apprenticeship programs in general for being more receptive to identifying some of these learning disabilities and how to kind of engage with them? Because we recognize it as instructors and coordinators, we've all been in that space, but I imagine when I went through the apprenticeship, it was more of, oh, this person's got an individual, or this individual's got some problem or not functioning in class right. And it was always kind of a dismissal thing rather than, like you said, working the problem and kind of focusing. How have you seen that acceptance over the years kind of develop as an organization? You talked about kind of professionalism, you know.
Well, some of this is generational. When I started, and for those who remember some of the class, we start off with the idea of the generations, and 10 years ago, we still had quite a few boomers in the classroom. And there was some old school conversations happening, I'm going to yell at them. And even the amount of swearing that went on in the classroom during training week has shifted dramatically. Not that there isn't swearing. I mean, it's like the only week of my teaching time it's even okay to have it all, because I can't do it in the classroom. That would be a danger for me. So, you see that just the shift in as we've shifted generations, we've shifted the way people understand others. And then I think the shifting with diversity, the shifting with gender issues, all of those things come in. And so there's an awareness that, we can really get into deeply within that training week. And the issue is that how can you expand that out, across the board, and make all of those things more important. And it's a time issue. I don't think there's any other way that you can really push, other than keeping at it. You can't make people suddenly see that this has to happen. But the generation shift is huge, because you have now people who are doing the training who have a completely different idea of what experiences should be or could be. And they're just simply not willing to even accept, abuse kind of in the classroom that may have been accepted for even some of you as you came up through the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Lee,
Lee, you had your hand up, Lee?
Yeah. So for most of you that heard me speak at the opening ceremony, I always acknowledged our trustees in the mid 80s to go down this path to instructor training. So Julie, you probably know this, next year is going to be our 40th year of instructor training. Just off the cuff, what do you think about that? 40 years going down this road and wanting the ironworkers wanting to instruct their own members to be safe, productive ironworkers on the job site. What's your immediate thought on 40 years of training?
I mean, first of all, it's amazing to have that sort of longevity, because that takes so much time and energy to keep it going. Because if one person dropped the ball early on, it's gone. But without it, you can't continue, because your livelihood really hinges on your ability to maintain your professionalism, to maintain that idea of what your role and can be within, on a regional level, on a federal level, and how you can get the monies that you need. And you're capitalizing on that, because, without it, you won't have the same sort of organization and structure. It just won't be that way. And I'm always struck. So my husband's an aircraft mechanic by training. He is considered unskilled labor. Now he makes things fly, mind you, but he's considered unskilled labor because they never organize. The mechanics never organize in a way, in a meaningful way throughout, historically. And so they don't have that sort of power. And so, FAA controls them, and it's a completely different structure of things. So, in terms of union perspective, I mean, you've got this right in terms of trying to continue to grow your area and trying to make things what you see will be the future, and give it a voice and give it a face. And that's what you've done really well, I think, over the last 40 years.
So most trades, I'm pretty sure all of the NAB2 building trades apprenticeship programs have instructor training. Some of them have a little bit longer than the ironworkers, not many. We're way up there with 40 years coming up. There's some that just started in the last couple of years. And we've actually, my department, I don't even advertise this. And Julie, I think I've had this conversation with you 4 or 5 years ago. We've had other trades contact me and other members from the general officers on our instructor training program, and how valuable, and we are the leaders in instructor training from the other trades. They really look upon us as the model. And you told me something 4 or 5 years ago, Julie, and I want you to be completely honest. You told me this is one of your favorite times of the year. Your time is very valuable. You don't get a lot of time off, but you choose to do this year after year. And you still feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. So I did, please don't hold it against me, for 3 years, I also did UA. So when I started in 13, we had UA was on campus, and then we had iron workers. And now we have, I think all of the trades are here at some point over the course of the summer. I think we host them all. And I had to give up on the UA piece of it. And because it was not nearly as satisfying. It was, there was much more in terms, I didn't have as much autonomy in what I wanted to do. And there wasn't as much of a personal connection to what was actually happening. And some of that is because I get to be the driver of my own course. And again, you know, even within the course that I teach, we talk about this idea of mastery, purpose, and autonomy. And that's what, as adults, I mean, this is why we teach. This is why we continue to do things outside of what our responsibilities are, because we want to give back. And when you know you can do that, then it's great, and you can tap into that. And you know, just the same, if you know that you can't give those things because of life's issues, then you have to be able to step back as well. And sometimes that's really hard. You feel pressured with that, but no, it's just been so impressive, and it really is my favorite week, because it's exhausting, mind-numbing, whatever, all of the descriptors, but yes, it keeps me going for the rest. I think the rest of my year. And for me, I'm looking to retire from teaching from Washtenaw here after this next year.
The Ironworkers will hire you.
But I don't want to end teaching. I just can't do what I'm doing now. I mean, it's I just want to shift in something, and so, but the Ironworkers bring me joy.
Well, we know you're busy. We've got a long agenda. You know, we've got great instructors on campus, and Julie, you are at the top. I appreciate your time. Any final comments before we move on?
No, if anybody wants to reach out, feel free to do that. And I just had someone from class reach out to me today, said good morning. So it's nice to see names and faces, and I always look forward to helping out in any way that I can.
Very good. Thanks for your time, and I'll keep in touch, Julie. Thank you.
All right. So
and feel free to join us if you want.
I can just ditch out. Is that what I'm doing, James?
No, you can stay on it. I know you're busy, but if you want to stay on and listen, it's up to you.
I think I'll probably answer the phone calls that people have been calling me today. So, you know.
Thank you. Back to you,
Thank
James.
you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Julie. Okay. All right. Yeah. If you had any questions about that, you know, the PDC courses were always kind of inspiration and energy for me. So that's always good stuff. And, you know, Lee had the idea of bringing Julie on here and just kind of expanding on that conversation. So I think that was good. Okay. Moving through the agenda. Next up, we've got basically the National Training Fund staff updates and reports, kind of what we're working on. We'll go with Jason Corder. He's up. Let's see what he's got going on.
All right, guys. So hello. So everybody's working through the WCP. So we got the new site here at headquarters. And we also know that there's been quite a few issues with that on our end that we're working through. The staff here has been excellent, really trying to do stuff. There's been a lot of bugs that have popped up over the time. And any new program, you're going to have that. So the IT department and everybody here is working really hard on trying to get all those bugs out there. Hopefully you guys haven't seen too many of them. But if there is anything that shows up on your guys' end, or you have any issues, make sure please let us know, especially email me, let me know on that issue on there. So I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions on the WCP site? I'm going to take that as a no. So the WPQ1, Joe Derby.
Sorry, guys, my space bar was not muting. I do have a question. When we get to the end page and we're getting ready to ship a certification and push it out, there's a page where it says enter in your local number. We switch it over to 67 because that's our local, but then it automatically changes the address change for the ship to our local's address. Is that supposed to do that, or should we be leaving that blank? I tried looking through the instructions and the previous stuff, and I couldn't find anything about that particular blurb.
So go ahead and change it. So the reason for that change is a lot of times is they have the option, because we have so many guys that boom out and stuff. So there's always a shipping address that's changed. And then also with that is this system talks to IWITS. which is ironworkers stuff, not the IWATs that we generally work with the IWITs at the hall. So the system is it's pulling the address from IWITs for a lot of stuff. So that's the reason for it. So it's something that they're getting into. It's hopefully we're going to get to a situation where not too much longer as you change an address in one, it's going to change it in all 3 programs. So we won't have to kind of reduplicate cards and mail them out several different places unless the member wants that. So we'll look into it a little bit more, Joe, and I'll let you know. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now,
Okay.
Jason, I had noticed that sometimes the address is polling is like a way obsolete address, like 3 or 4 addresses in the past for an individual member.
So some of that was simply because we had 3 different systems talking. So it might have been never got updated in IWITS, it never got updated in IWATS, or it never got updated in the WCP. So we've had those issues, and that's what one of the things that we're working through is trying to figure out the correct address to the member. So if you guys are in there, make sure that and you're working with your hall, make sure that the picture of the individual is a nice photograph, you know, like a passport, solid color, and send them to the admin at the hall so they can upload those photos. So all the photos are roughly the same. So the address is a big one with that. The continuity forms, guys, I know some guys are complaining about that, the way they're coming in or they're doing it. There is size requirements that the IT is working on resolving. The old continuity forms, pictures and stuff that the contractors needs are getting put into the new system. The old program didn't send it all to IT, so IT's got them. They're putting them in. When you take a picture of the continuity or have the guys do it, make sure it's a decent sized photo and eligible or readable. You know that word, I'm drawing a blank with it. We've had guys send them in sideways and at a 45 and stuff like that. And I've asked Christine Vermillion to deny those and send it back for a better picture, because a lot of times what happens is the contractors get that read only and they'll go in there and look at continuity. And if they're in there having to turn their heads and it's not very visual, then they're not going to really like it. So we want to make sure that our photographs for our continuity is legible, square, and high resolution as much as possible. I know it puts a little bit more work on you guys, but we're trying to make sure that this thing works as well as possible and looks very professional out there. The WPQ1, we just had to cancel the next class because there was only 5 people in it. I've asked Hannah to send out everybody's information of the people that canceled it to move it to the class here in Washington, D.C. and from the Henderson location, I believe it was. And that's just it. We've done probably, I think total we've had 120 people go through that course, which is great. And I think we've had a really high success rate in it so far. So, which is nice. AWS has setbacks on top of setbacks on top of setbacks. They're just like our training programs with apprentices. They're having trouble keeping people. People will sign up, they'll go to work, and then a few weeks later they decide it's not for them and they quit. They just had their president just died suddenly last 2 or 3 days. I just got an email about it, so sad to hear about that. So them rolling out the new QC 47, which helps with the WPQ1, is going to be on hold. They're assuring me it's going to come out. They're ready. They're just got to try to get the right person in there to get it going and how they're going to implement it across the states, because they can't implement it with us here and then not with the other trades or across all ATFs in the United States. And when it comes to the NTF app, James just sent me some information today, and I've updated the National Training Fund app with some grant information. So I'm sure that he's going to touch on that here in a little while after that. So we did have a question is if the WPQ1 course will be offered in Zoom. That might be an option. You know, I'll look into that and I'll talk to some of the other instructors and see if that's very possible to do. I think it might be, but I do like in-person classes, so we will look at that. So that is what I have. The time is out there. Does anybody have any quick questions for me?
I'm just going to follow up, Jason. So obviously Jason and I, we work at headquarters together and we're always talking. And I asked him approximately how many people have this endorsement, our members, Jason?
I would probably
maybe out of
say
the total number of CWIs, how many have the endorsement, do you think?
about 40.
40%, 40?
I would say 40% of us.
40%. Okay. Like Jason said, the AWS has had some setbacks. And again, just the other day, the AWS, their president just died. And good Lord. I mean, awful to hear. But I'm always telling Jason, you know, we can't wait for our CWIs to drag their feet and not get this endorsement. Let's stay on top of it because sooner or later it's going to be mandatory and we rather act now than react later. So any comments from anybody, or Jason, you have anything on that?
No, I agree. We got to be proactive with it. Let's not be reactive with it. If we're going to be the leaders in the industry, we want to make sure that we have it, because soon it's going to be out there that I don't know if the carpenters or the UA or anybody else is taking this serious as we are. So it'll get to the point when they roll that out that their training centers will not be able to test individuals. And I want to make sure that we can.
All right. Any other questions for Quarter on any of his stuff?
I see
Well,
the one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we took the seminar through the AWS themselves. We were able to do the seminar on Zoom and then go to our local pyrometric site and take the test. It was about $1,000.
Okay.
So just, you know, that was an option.
The AWS does do it, have online courses, so that's good. It's probably the same guy that I took mine with originally back in the day. But the difference of it is we're trying to do it so that it is cheaper for the individuals. And maybe we might have to go into a virtual classroom and do it. I'm not opposed to it. So just got to see everybody's schedule and how that would work out with that kind of stuff. So, because there's a little bit of cost to it. And if it's just sweat equity on our backs, then that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Good question, Doc. Anything else for Quarter? All right.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I'll look into that and get back with you. Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
My question is, I know we probably did speak about it, but my problem is when we do the request for members cards again, I know they spoke about it in that one training course that we had with a lady, but I just don't recall how to do it. I've looked at the website, I've looked at the downloads where you do the PowerPoint, and still nothing catches in my mind how to do that again. Do you want us to email it to you guys? Or do you want us? I'm lost on that one. That's my question to you.
Are you asking for
Request for new cards? Yes, lost cards, correct.
I would email it to the request for a replacement card to wcp@ironworkers.org.
Perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that information.
Now I'm gonna pipe in here with this, is I'm hoping and I'm pushing with IT to try to go to a digital card. Because the guys have their phone anyways, but these cards, I don't know if you guys know, but it takes a little bit of time and effort to print these. And the address is sometimes always wrong. And that's one reason is it takes time to print it, buy the material, mail it out at $2 a thing, stamp. It goes out to the individual. He's no longer there. It gets mailed back to the office here. We re-go through all three systems, make sure that the address is there. We remail it out for another $2. and sometimes it doesn't even get to the member. So it can be costly. And as I always say, this is your tax dollars at work. And I was asked if the WCP will ever notify this for rejections. That's going to be, we're working on that with phase 2 right now. These are all different items that we really pushed to just try to get the WCP up and going, because it's been an 8-year saga to try to get that up and going. And I have all these other items that I want for phase 2 that we're going to start working on here within next year.
Perfect. Good information. Anything else for quarter? No, that's all a hot topic right now, so might as well get it out. Okay. All right, good stuff. If you need anything else on any of that stuff that Quarter covers, you can email him directly. Moving into the next agenda here, we'll let Brian Tannehill let us know what he's got going on. If you guys have any questions for him, we're ready to rock and roll. Tannehill? I can't hear you, Tannehill.
Unmute my
There you go.
microphone.
Perfect.
So on your screen, you're going to see the ICB exam numbers for 2023. It's pretty sparse. And then, so 5 locals accounting for 11 certifications for 2023. 2 locals haven't turned in data for their certification testing that they had. So if you're from local 7 or local 29 and you had certification tests offered, even if your guys failed the exam, send us back whatever they took. So if they passed the written and didn't pass the performance exam, send us back those failed performance exams so we can keep track of that information. We had 2 train the trainer events so far this year that actually had enough people to do, and that accounts for 7 of those 11 certifications for 2023. We've canceled so far 3 train the trainer events, and I think we're going to end up canceling the 4th one. So right now we only have 3 people that have applied or sent in their applications for the train the trainer event that's coming up at local 5. If we don't have that class filled by Friday, then we're going to cancel that offering of that course. There's another event that's happening that same week. And for us to be able to make our arrangements to go to that event, then we need to be making those arrangements pretty quick. So I'm going to give everybody until Friday to turn in applications for that course. If there's enough to do the course, we'll stay and do the course and forego the other event. But what I don't want to do is miss out on both of them. So the enhancement training that we're going to do with CPWR is an important training, but I can miss that to meet the goals of our employers and our members. Right now, to date, we have 110 proctors. We have 169 active certifications. So that means 59 members have been tested throughout the country. 59. So I have people ask me all the time, hey, is anybody accepting this certification? What can we do, to get our certification accepted by insert a company here? And I said, well, the first thing that we need to do is have people with the certification. And what I'm going to say today is we don't have people with the certification. We don't have enough people with the certification to ask 10 contractors to only use our certification and not use anybody else's, not require somebody else's. If I go through the list and on the next few pages, so this is the number of active certifications by local, right? So, I mean, you can see local 29, they've done the most by far. They have 36. Now that number does include the number of proctors. So I'm just saying that in those locals, these are the locals with the most. So we can go, this page is a follow-up of the previous. If we go down through here, you got local 10, they're in, or local 584, they have 10, but they have 4 members that are proctors out of those 10. So if you look at that, they only have 6 certified riggers. Probably wouldn't be a bad number for a local of 189 people or whatever. But if I had a big job that moved in and I needed to fill 15 rigger spots, I'm going to have to pull from somebody else. Maybe I can get those, maybe I can't. And then this last page, this last segment is the final number of locals that we have. So if you don't see your number on this list, that's a problem. If you see your number on this list and you only see corresponding numbers from the number of proctors to the number of certificate holders, that's also a problem. So that number includes the proctors. So take local, take my local, for example, local 584, they have 10, they have 4 locals that are, or they have 4 proctors and 10 people. So they only have 6 actual guys working in the field with the certification. The certification, the cost for the certification is expensive. We spend a lot of money getting the certification to where we're at today. And I've had people ask in the past, hey, what are we doing about a lift director certification? It's not widespread. There's not a lot of people that's asking for it. And I was like, oh, well, we'll get out ahead of it. I know that NCCCO, they already have a lift director training program that's out there, but they didn't ask us for anything. So we'll get ahead of it and we'll put something together. Well, I put something together. I've got the training program isn't finished, but it's a long ways down the road. But I have to tell Lee, does this seem like something that we need to move forward with? As we stand here today, I don't think it's something that we need to move forward with as far as a certification goes. Because the cost of making a certification is so high, if we only have 59 people in 89,000 that have it, I don't see that as a good expense of the money. Obviously, we're sitting here with a rigging certification that we only have 59 working field members that are using. And I just say that not that they're using it, they have it. 59 people. I don't know if they're using it or not. So we had the rigging, the EPRI rigging classes, the train the trainer classes for 2023 were both canceled. We have classes coming up in 24. We'll see what they look like. If we need to keep offering those at the summer training program, or if we don't. So we'll check into those. I want to make sure that we have enough offerings of the ironworker certification course for anyone that wants to take it. But if we're putting the classes on the schedule and then we're just canceling them, maybe we need to make that where there's only one in the fall, or one in the first 6 months, one in the second 6 months. So that's something that we can look at in the future. The other thing that we're having with the ICB certification course is we're having courses that are canceled and then request for courses in individual jurisdictions. So that puts if you have enough people for the course, send them to one of the regional training centers. Because I don't want to cancel a course in March to have a course in March. We already got one on the schedule. All of the instructors are there. Everything is in order to have that course. I'm not saying that we won't do them. You know, if we have a full course in March and we have another full course in March, I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem going to Lee and asking him for permission to go down and teach that course. But I don't want to cancel an offering that we already have established that works with everybody's schedule to go and do another one where we don't have maybe enough people to take the course. Because what we're getting told is that we're going to have 12 to 15 people show up for this course, and when we get there, it's not that number. It's 6 or 5 that actually show up for the course. So that causes us a little bit of an issue there. Any questions about ICB or the EPRI rigging certifications? Nope. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Tannehill. Appreciate it. I'll just we're getting to the top of the hour, and so I kind of want to run through this stuff. You know, in the grant space, you know, we've got the AC5 class that we just completed in Ann Arbor, where we had another successful class, a lot of individuals in that course, some good feedback. We just added a grant resource to the National Training Fund app for you guys. So if you go on there, there's some links and some resources for you in the grant space. If you need anything, reach out to me. We've been doing a lot of coordinator, local union, business manager grant consultations recently. So if your program has not gotten into the grant space, please reach out to me. Let's set up a grant consultation. I can come on and talk about the pros, cons, best practices, help you find some things in your area. Also, we are starting have started a why grants series on our YouTube page, and the link to that is on the National Training Fund app as well, where you can hear testimony and best practices from apprenticeship coordinators and local union staff who have stepped into the grant space and been successful. So it could be a tool for you to kind of watch those interviews, if you will, and learn a little bit. And if you would like to do one, if you've been successful in grants, and you would like to jump on a Zoom with me and record it and kind of do a little webinar thing and publish it out for other people to use to help some of our other programs, that would be great. And I think that is about all I will cover today. And I'm going to turn over the last 5 minutes to Mike Sampson. And let's hear what he's got. We'll get everybody out here at the top of the hour.
Hey, I'm just going to take a real quick couple minutes just to update, and then that way you guys can have some time to ask some questions. But Regional Training Center update. Somebody asked about when the calendar's coming out. It's real close. I'm hoping to have it out by, I'll say, the end of this month. We've got the first draft out. I've sent it out to a lot of people. I only had a couple tweaks to make, so I'm hoping like heck to have that out real soon. Couple of you, I noticed coordinators in here, particularly Birmingham, Alabama. I know you guys had 4 years ago, you had a lot of guys take the men and women take the OSHA 500 while we were doing it online. Just an FYI, we got 2 502s, which is the renewal, going to be on the training center calendar for next year. One probably early February, then the other one's kind of early August or September, probably early September tentatively. Those are the updates. If you've got members that want to update their 500, that'd be, you don't have to travel for the 502. It's 3 days, no test. They just kind of come on a Zoom and do the class. So if you've got members that need to update, get them. I expect those 502s to fill up really quick. So just FYI, when you get that calendar come out here the end of this month, first part of October, I'd highly recommend you get those. If they're get with them now, find out if they're interested, and get them in one of those classes, because I got a feeling they'll fill up really quick with the renewals. Because this is going back. This is 2020. We look back 4 years to before we schedule the 500s to make sure that nobody expires. So if we had one in California, we schedule one in California before they expire. That being said, COVID hit, so it was random across the country. So we do have 502s before that, but we scheduled 500s ahead of that. But we also scheduled the 502s early, and there's only 2 right now. I'm not saying we can't add another one if we need it. But I know Tom Mathis sitting in the room. I know he has a bunch of people from his local in Orlando. I know they had a bunch. So get with your members, see if they want to renew. We are doing some shop, the general industry. We got them back-to-back weeks. I kind of scheduled that with the shop, the director of, of shops, John Belak and his people. 511, 501, that's general industry. We're going to have that in Chicago. We generally have low numbers for that, so we schedule it with the shop. And if you're wanting to do that, is back-to-back weeks. Update on the GWO, Local 5 is moving forward. They've got the GWO credential. They're able to train people for GWO. There are talks of if you need people for GWO, which I apologize, GWO is a global wind organization, and they kind of do the pre-safety training for, in particular, the offshore wind. Not saying that they aren't being required on the onshore as well, but they are able to do it. There is talks of them trying to accommodate locals right now that don't have the training until we can get other locals up and running. I know New York City's in the process, Local 40, 361. Got a couple trainers already trained up there. So with that, I'll turn it over to James if there's any questions or anything about the regional training center calendars or OSHA, any of that.
Any questions for Mike? And then we'll give Lee last comments. I know he's got a meeting here. Okay. Lee, you got some closing comments before you got to go?
No, I appreciate everybody's time. It was great to have Julie Kissel on board, and I really meant what I said. Our PDC instructors, they're the best, and their time is valuable. So I appreciate their willingness to commit a week each year to us. So that's all I got. Everybody be safe. James, I'll turn it back to you, and I'll see everybody next webinar.
Okay. Thanks, Lee. Have a good day. Anybody else have any questions or comments? I see we got a bunch of stuff going on in the chat, so hopefully you could read that up. If you guys don't have any comments, I will get a follow-up email with this webinar posted to you guys through the listserv. If you want to do some grant stuff, reach out to me. And that's it. We'll get back to it. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.